Hello, everyone. Welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation sales and marketing success stories. I am Jennifer Carpus Romaine, Executive Director at the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association, which is a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professionals inside transportation and logistics. And today on the show, I have Kyle MacNaught, who is the video content producer at 5 Tool Productions. Welcome to the show, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jen. How are you?
It looks backwards.
Trying to surprise you with a little B-roll stuff, but I forgot that I mirror my camera when I do this. So that's just showing you
Oh,
how good of a video producer I am. How's it
well,
going?
so glad we're diving into all things video so we can talk about if you're mirroring your camera, what does that happen when you have the output?
Oh, mirror means everything. So if I raise my hand, like this is actually looks correct because of how you're using it. So when I raise my hand, I actually look normal versus what I see in the camera is opposite. So it's one of those confusion things. So a little trick when you're on Zoom, if you ever set it up, mirror your camera because that way when you try to gesture to something, it's going to be actually how it should be. Just don't
Yeah.
pull up lower thirds. And that's the only thing.
Interesting fun fact. And you love all things video. So we've been friends for a couple years now, but I love doing these interviews because I get to just like go on people's LinkedIn and like stalk them a little bit, not stalk, but like look them up in a way. And so I was laughing because your LinkedIn says, I'm absolutely smitten with the magic of digital video and all the incredible things it can do. Seriously, it's like a Swiss Army knife of creativity. So I would love for you to tell our audience your journey through video production and why you're just such a big fan of it.
I mean, you can tell I'm not good at writing, so that's probably why I like video. Was it as you can tell by that horribly written LinkedIn? By the way, thanks for reminding me that I need to update that. Uh, like it was before ChatGPT, so I think I was using Grammarly and trying to like make it sound like something. But yeah, absolutely smitten is never a word I would ever use. But
Never heard
yeah,
you use that
never. Nah, I
term. I'm
barely
going
even know what
to
it
use
means.
it with you forever now.
Yeah, thanks. Definitely updating this. So it's fake news. You used AI. I'm gonna have to report this on YouTube. Yeah, video, it's fun. So my kind of journey to video was I was always kind of creative, always did storytelling as a kid, was like we always filmed, like did that type of stuff. Uh I went to college and didn't really know what I wanted to do. The movie Anchorman had just came out. So my mother's like, well, you like that movie. Why don't you try to do something on TV? And that was truly how I got into communications. I was like, sure. So I did
Wow.
newspaper. I wild. Thanks to Ron Burgundy, I'm sitting in front of you today, basically. But yeah, I did radio. I did newspaper. I did kind of all the other forms of media, and then graduated college. Wanted to go to a big city. Wanted to kind of be in a place where like I wasn't working in television news because I kind of didn't like that. Just wanted to kind of get out there. So I moved up to Boston, got a job in digital video, which is one of the mediums I didn't do. And then kind of from there, just got to keep exploring and really just liked everything. Like the coolest part about video really is, at least I find in terms of creative, like I'm not a great colorist. I can't write for anything. Unlike you, I don't book time at my hotel to just get my video going. But
I
I
write books in hotels. I feel like out of context, that sounded very strange.
a little bit.
I have to book time because my schedule is busy, so I book time in hotels to write. Okay, and continue.
I mean, but like when you write, right? Like, especially in that thing, I bet you get into the flow too. When you're really feeling creative, it's awesome. Like that feeling of when the story is coming together and stuff. It just, the mode for me that happens is in video. So that's kind of why I like video, because I've been able to find that ability to like get into that Zen space, like feel like, oh man, these things are coming together. The universe, like this transition I did flips perfectly with the B-roll I use. So it's kind of what I find fun about video. Whereas like for you, you're a brilliant writer. So I'm sure when you're like, oh man, this like adjective I just used was perfect. I kick butt when I'm in the hotel with my champagne and feet up in the air. I'm getting the same feeling when I'm sitting in a dark room as an editor.
I'd be sleeping. That's for if
It's not about how fast you write. It's about the journey of writing.
It is. And the character development, I think that's where this is neither here nor there for video production, but like I'm in the part of the book, I'm like kind of going back through and like rewriting some of the earlier chapters where I have things more developed now. And I'm sure that's part of the video editing process. Like, okay, like we have all this B-roll, we have these people. Like you did our 100-year video last year, and I was like, this is what's in my head, Kyle, figure it out. And so, but how you were able to actually put together what was in my head, and I had no actual words to use to get there, like was really impressive to me. And then when I was like, oh, well, I want to include this, and you were able to do that, like, I'm sure that's part of that process too. It's like, oh, we have all this. How do we tell that? Yeah. How do we tell the story? How do we incorporate all the pieces together?
Yeah, I think it's such a fun way to be able to do that. Like you can tell very unique and interesting stories. And I think the best part about video, where like picture says 1,000 words, video is someone's own voice. So that's why I also love podcasting. Like I've always done a ton of stuff. I've won awards for podcasting, but it's like, that's the thing I think really sets video apart. Even like even newspaper, like you're still interpreting it. Someone's reading your words and kind of interpreting it how they're going to. Video at the end of the day is someone speaking, and like you're seeing them usually. There's other ways you can do video, but a lot of times, especially the stuff that I typically do for 5 Tool Productions, is that type of thing of like cool messaging cut. How's this sound? It's the person saying what they mean and what they feel and that type of stuff. And you just have a genuine connection where you can see someone, hear someone, look them in the eyes as they're saying this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's how you can really utilize video for like case study content. And I think sometimes we forget how powerful hearing people talk about the things that they care about and what they're passionate about, hearing it in their own words. So how can companies really leverage video to achieve like the maximum case study that they're trying to aim for?
Oh, they absolutely, it should be their go-to. I mean, for every written case study, if you could just do a 2-minute video, and I could show you a little example, I'll bring it up. Let's see if it works out fine for here. Oh, nope, that's us. Meant to do a different one. Hold on. Let's see. Here we go. So this is a little video, right? So this is one I shot in the past. Essentially what I did with my phone. So I shot this, I did the interviews, walked around their little showroom floor. I was a director of marketing for a logistics company. So I've got their VP of operations. I've got these different individuals in here who can talk and say like what they're doing, walking, showing. I mean, this is a very simple way, but like you think about the case study you might write as a marketer, it's a lot of words. It's a lot of like factoids and stuff. But at the end of the day, they want to hear from a trusted source. And who's a trusted source for most kind of B2B is like, hey, I do the same job you do. I'm using the same terminology you do. So like Jalon is an awesome guy. I love that guy. He's like down to earth. He streams video game content, but he was such a good, like if I could send this video to, we can link it out. But like the way Jalon talks is how most of the warehouse managers and the transportation managers speak. So it's not me as a marketer trying to put words in his mouth. He's like, this is how I use that company. Which to someone who's trying to look and understand, hey, how does a managed transportation solution work? I've got someone who uses it being able to say it. And that's kind of what the big thing of what video case studies do. It's just such a good way of giving what people are looking for. It's like, how does that thing actually work out? How is it going to look and feel? How will I interact with this tool? That's where video case studies just give the opportunity. And the best part now is everything has become so cheap. I think I did that entire shoot for less than $100. You have an iPhone, you have a phone, you can get a gimbal. So that motion where I was walking through, that was a $30 gimbal that doesn't take long to set up. Ask your kids, ask your niece, ask your nephew. They can set that thing up in a heartbeat. But like that type of stuff, I think I did a decent amount of videos through Zoom. So I would have my clients come on. I just talk to them a couple of questions, really just like in their own words, how do they do stuff? But it's sort of like everything. It's kind of like podcasting. A lot of like those other things of like authentically talking is what people want to hear. They don't want to hear the jargon where everything's cut and stuff like that. I want to be able to sit down and actually hear what you're saying, see how you got to a place.
And how do you get people then that are uncomfortable on camera or like initially refuse to do that type of case study? Like, how do you get them comfortable enough to agree to come on camera and do? Because I feel like that's such like the barrier that so many people say they have with videos. Like, oh, they have such an amazing story, but they won't say it in their own words on camera. Like,
yeah, that's it. I wish there was a perfect solution to that. I wish I could tell you just do this, do that, and it'll work out. Everyone's a unique flower. Everyone's individual. I think the best advice I can tell you, the thing I always try to do as much as possible is the more prep work. So at the beginning, you'd want to be as honest, as transparent. You want to have so much communication. because a lot of times I find that what people hate about recording is A, how they look on camera, but B, it's the unknown. Like they don't really know what that setup is. Most people don't sit in front of a camera. They're not, we like to say that you're not talent, right? Like we aren't working with people whose like sole job is to sit in front of a camera, present perfectly. You're dealing with people who's like, hey, my job is coordinating pickup at the warehouse, or I'm doing this type of stuff. I don't really know about being on front of the camera. So a lot of it's trying to just get them prepared and have them understand this is what it's going to be like. This is what we're going to do. Here's the questions I'm going to ask, or that type of thing. There's also just the need to be able to pivot and be agile. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. Like we've gone into a couple of warehouses to kind of do some sort of recruitment videos. And some of the warehouse guys are like, I don't want to be on camera at all. I'm like, that's okay. How about if I show just your back and we don't show your face, because the action you're doing is something I'd love to kind of have footage of. I'd love to be able to use that type of stuff. I mean, that's part of what it is. Like as a good producer, I try to just be flexible. I know the story of where I want to take it, but like writing, like anything, like sometimes something goes away that you're like, I didn't expect it to go that way. I just need to be able to adjust on the fly, which is a lot of filmmaking.
Yeah, I know. Like we've talked about this too, like for podcasts and how to like prep guests and things like that. So like I always send full questions. Like you know exactly what I'm asking you. And I also say, is there anything that I've put on this list that you're not comfortable talking about? I don't think I asked you that because I was like, okay, you'll tell me regardless. But and then is there anything that I'm missing that you do want to talk about? And so kind of giving them the autonomy to say yes or no, like I'm comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with that. I've done run throughs with people like, okay, like let's go through it and we'll talk about it. Or they will give me answers ahead of time because I know like as a moderator, like I've moderated panels and things like that. If I know what things they want to hit, the things that they find is really important, and they are nervous because they're on camera or on stage or whatever, you can then lead them back to the answer. And so I feel like those are just tips I have found too, is like helping them get to the answer that they are looking for. But sometimes you do get nervous and you forget. And then you're like, oh man, I wish I would have said that. But if you have a good partner that's walking you through that interview or on stage with you, they could be like, oh, I remember when we were talking about this beforehand, or what do you think about this, or whatever. And it kind of helps you kind of get to where you wanted to go.
Right. That's the prep work. Like you should, as a moderator, as the interviewer, even if you're not on camera, you're not on stage, you should understand like what the overall message, where you're trying to take it. But then that's part of like being an active listener and knowing kind of the sound you're looking for in your head. Like you might have to ask follow-up questions to try to get that sound out because they might not have that. Because maybe like I find sometimes the people who are scripted, they come off so scripted. So a lot of times I'm like, all right, say your script. Then I'm going to ask you a question that's going to be about that, but I want you to say it more in your own words. So like that's part of that goes into the prep. I mean, it does take work. You know, can't just like flip it on and just go. Like you're not trying to create the Joe Rogan experience where you're just talking for 4 hours. Who's got the time for that? You're really trying to do like a short kind of period, like a short message. So you got to think about like, how is this going to sound? Like picture it in your head, especially when you're creating videos of like, all right, great. They said something short, but they didn't say it this way. And feel free to even have them repeat that. But really, it comes on you as the person asking the questions. Like you want them to trust you, and you've got to do all the work to make them trust you.
Yeah. And I think part of the keyword there is prep. You have to be prepared. If you want people to be comfortable, you have to be prepared to get them there. And so part of that is letting them know your type of process, what you do, how to do, like what steps you'll take, what you'll do. And I always find that a lot of times if you just tell them, hey, I'll send you the video before I put it anywhere else, then they're good too. Like if they're like, okay, then I can feel comfortable to say yes or no with what I look like. I don't want to watch myself ever again. I try not to.
Yeah. The only trick I'll tell you is make sure you let them know there's going to be no edits. You're just going to let them see it before it goes live. But you do not get away from that slippery slope. Don't let them all of a sudden give you edits, especially if you're like, it's going on my channel. What do I care? But I mean, same time you talk about like, hey, that's for podcasting for on stage where it's going to happen, how you make them feel comfortable. You got to be kind of okay with rejection too. I mean, like we do man on the street stuff. And like, I think you get maybe 2 people that are good, you get 10 people that will at least talk to you, and then you get 50 people that tell you to F off. You're like, sounds good. So like that stuff's going to happen. You just got to go with the flow.
And if there is somebody that you really want to interview or have, or they're like, I won't be on camera or whatever, is that where AI can come into play now? Because you can create some type of likeness of that person, a cartoon character of that person. And then, of course, like how else is AI being utilized in video production now?
I mean, AI has been used for a while. Like it's been in there, but AI's been in everything. Like it's just now that they call it AI, that's anything. But like there's been a ton of stuff that they do to help kind of enhance or make some of the tasks in terms of video production that would take longer happen faster, just because they can use AI to kind of do voice enhancements. They can do stuff like background or coloring. Like there's tons of cool things that AI does. That point you made about using kind of AI if someone doesn't want to speak is a great one. I mean, that's a way that you can still kind of do video with capturing it. There's a lot of cool things. One of the projects I'm currently working on is exactly what you mentioned. Like, person does not want to be on camera. They're phenomenal on camera. They're really engaging in how they talk. So they're asking if we could just do voice. Like, can I just do my voice? And the problem is, it's like, that's not that engaging to watch a even 12, 15-minute video. Part of what's so engaging about you is like your facial expressions. Like, I connect watching you speak. So how do we do that? And what we're doing is kind of using character animation, which isn't just like, I'm not sending it to like a Korean like character animation studio for very cheap. In some of the software we have, we're able to take a camera, put like a little overlay in there, can actually match the facial, like the gesturing, the hands and stuff like that. And like, that's not as expensive as it used to be. So some of that stuff's great. AI in terms of like fully taking over right now is still kind of questionable. It's still uncanny sometimes. And then especially the problem with AI is that the longer you want, the harder it is to kind of update the stuff. So like, I've seen it be great for like putting in for like little voiceover, like, hey, you have this opening screen and you want a Morgan Freeman style voice to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't have to go to a voiceover artist. You can just get AI to do that. Same with music. It's awesome in terms of like royalty free. Like, I'm looking for this vibe instead of me going through a music catalog and trying to find that based off of like, I want this genre with this type of mood, with this type of length. You're able to kind of do some cool stuff of just like, hey, give me a bright poppy tune that like matches this. So that's, I mean, AI really is a tool. Like, I've been trying to think about how to like explain it. Like, AI to me, it's transactional, right? We still do the partnership. We are still there. If for a video producer, you're using it as one of your tools in your mini toolbox that you're going to pull out. But like, you still need a person that's there, because like, hey, I made a 3-minute AI, but at one point the guy loses 5 fingers and like says like a word that's not real. It's very hard to edit that. So that's kind of where you still want professional video to, just to be there for you.
And I know like there's so many AI videos in the world. And I know there's like a lot of, like, I go down lots of holes on the internet of like, what, like, and people be like, is this real? Is this AI? Like, what are like some of the giveaways of AI being utilized in like scarier ways, I guess, but like to really identify the difference between like an AI video and an original video, and does it really matter?
I mean, if I got paid enough for that, there's stuff like, it more is like when you pause it, you can find some of the stuff. I think there's still an uncanniness to it. Like, there's still that, like, some of the skin is a little off. There's like it's not all the Will Smith eating spaghetti insane video. Like, there is a little bit more to what they're doing. I mean, deep fakes should scare the heck out of everyone. Like, yeah, the fact that like they're able to start superimposing faces, having you say it in your voice, should be the scariest thing. Like, it is straight up a threat to what's happening. Mm-hmm. As of right now, it's still, there's enough like stuff that makes it questionable. Like, especially you pause it, you're like, that person has 2 fingers, one arm is like way over here. There's things that you can sort of see. But that's why I say it's more of it's an accent, right? Think of it as B-roll or like additional footage. Like, you can use AI, give me a stock footage of this exact truck doing this exact thing. I'm going to show it for 3 seconds because I need to cover a cut I did with the video. Someone talking and like they went on, like a dog talked in the background and they stopped their point. But like, if I cut out that dog talking, these 2 sound bites together is exactly what I'm looking for. But I want to cover that. Then you use a little bit of B-roll, but like, hey, I just want this specific B-roll. That's where AI could help you out. I know a lot of like the algorithm too, AI has been helping a lot because algorithms, they want the stuff like the thumbnails and all those things. AI gives you the ability to be a little bit more customized, but I mean, you're starting to see everyone that uses AI to build their video templates or their thumbnails and their little things. It's like, oh, all of them look the same. Like that's the thing. It's a lot of sameness when it comes to AI, which is sort of that issue. At least I've been finding with it.
Yeah, I think even that, like from a writing perspective, like if I'm on ChatGPT and I'll like go to the prompt, you can tell what adjectives ChatGPT really loves because it uses it over and over and over again. And so especially if you use it, which I mean, yeah, I'm a writer, but I don't use ChatGPT for my book, but I will for like starter content for like emails and stuff like that. I typically rewrite them, but just having that starting point. And so I can see how even in the video landscape, it'd be similar to that. The ones that creep me out the most are the ones that like you're watching ice cream and it turns into puppies. I don't like those videos. They scare me. Like why is the ice cream moving? Like then why are there so many of those on the internet?
Yeah, between that and the Candy Crush, there's so much weird stuff with AI. Like it's just people being creative, which is fun and stuff. But yeah, some of them where it's like eating and stuff like that. You're like, oh, is this cake? What am I watching?
Yeah.
Before we move off, there is a little tip I'll give the listeners or viewers for this. AI. One of the ways I've heard it actually brilliantly used is. So find out, especially when it comes to AI video generating, part of the issue is learning how to write the prompts correctly and try to get that going. So one of the tricks I've heard some video creators in the space use ChatGPT to say, and I got this example. So have ChatGPT write a detailed text prompt for AI video. So tell them like, hey, I want this. You want to find out how many characters the prompt makes for AI video, but you can have them make a detailed text prompt for you. So they're going to fill it out in a way that like the actual like AI wants it. So that's like just a better way than you struggling to like, how do I tell ChatGPT I want this? When like I could short say this, but like, especially with prompting, it needs to be more detailed. And that's where like AI is like a smart way to use it and kind of like, oh, this just saved me a ton of time. And now I'm using like the right way because they could say in 180 words, detail this type of reveal I want. Like I know with you and I were talking about, I pointed the wrong way because of the mirroring. You're open, right? We talked about the open and you end up using a freelancer for the open, but like in theory, we could have probably tried with AI. And then like the problem is like you text prompt and you're like, oh, this didn't work. Write another thing. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah, it's exactly why I didn't do it. I was like, I don't have time to do that.
Right. So it's like using ChatGPT to like, hey, write a text prompt for this, like a detailed text prompt. This is what I'm looking for. They'll write out that thing. So you don't have to worry about like, how do I write to this video, like this AI prompt? Like it's just one thing that's like, oh, wow, that's a brilliant way to use this stuff.
Yeah, now I'm remembering when I was like, hey, Kyle, like if I want the logo to like wiggle and move, what do I do? And you're like, what?
Oh, I started to edit it. I sent you used Fiverr for that one. I was like, oh, just go here. They're pretty cheap. But I was like, I'll try to do it too. I was like, it's funny when I was watching the intro. I was like, oh, I remember that thing.
I remember this conversation because I was like, I don't even know what that's called. Is that graphic design? Is that logo wiggling? I don't know.
It's called the wiggle. Yeah. You just go up to any video guy. It's like, oh, you threw a wiggle on that. Good. They'll know what it means.
It's fine. Anywho. So we talked about AI, we talked about different videos, but like video content is so rich. There's so many things that you can do with it. But what I want to know is like, what is the lowest hanging fruit in video content? If people really want to dive in and do something quick, be able to do it with like a small marketing team, small sales team, what can they be doing right now?
Oh, it's Canva. Canva by far has taken over a ton of stuff, but Canva's video tools has become really awesome. Like you can set up a template with your branding, you can make it vertical, you can do a ton of stuff. So it's using Canva and then being very strategic with your B-roll. That's something that like TMSA, right? We filmed a ton of B-roll for the 100th anniversary video. So B-roll is like that, any shot that's like action and stuff like that. Typically your A-roll is people talking, your B-roll is the footage that goes over that to kind of tell the story a little bit more to enhance it. But you can set up a whole template on Canva, upload your B-roll that you go to a conference and you have your salespeople or your subject matter experts, your people, your VPs, your C-suite, all of them just film with your phone, upload it to Canva, and then you can have a branded thing. Like, you don't need to be an editor. You don't need to be in the Adobe suite that I'm in. Canva does all of that. Canva can also put the stuff in frames. Like, Canva does stuff that gets me annoyed as a video editor, because I'm like, that's what I would do to do a massive flex. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm doing that edit, it's like, it takes me about 5 hours to get that type of thing going to make sure it all works. Whereas Canva is like, oh, you want an overlay and we want to do a background stuff. Like, Canva does so many things. I think that, especially as a small marketer, when I was doing it myself for that logistics company, like, that was a tool that was like kind of becoming bigger and bigger. But as more and more we see, it's like, hey, I'm going to create this very high produced video for you, but I want you to take all that B-roll I shot for you, upload it into your Canva, and then you can tell more specific stuff back to that video case study. You can have exact people doing the stuff that you want to represent in your company, and like, especially helping your prospects and your clients recognize, like, hey, this is what I look like. Here's someone who's just like you with a title. And like, you can do stuff that I'd be doing with that machine. The other thing I'd say, the other lowest hanging fruit a lot of times is SEO. Like, SEO and YouTube are your best friends. It is a search engine. Think of it that way. Make sure you put metadata in your YouTube videos. Make sure you're doing it in a way that people search. YouTube's analytics is so robust. It's so good at showing you who's coming and why they're coming. So you can understand, it's like, great, I rank for this. So as you do SEO on your website, don't think of YouTube as just like the cool cat video, like landing page, or like places I watch like how to cook something. Like, it should be used as a Google search tool.
I think that's really good advice, good low-hanging fruit. From my perspective, one of the things I think, so I loved our 100-year video. I feel like we'll make sure we have a link to it while this goes live for people. And that was like something that I was like, okay, that's who I need. I need to outsource this to my video partner to execute exactly the way I want it to. Whereas like our location announcement videos, where I wandered around Austin, Texas, taking a bunch of photos of all of the cool artwork, because that's what I was super into. And then I self-recorded myself saying like, hey, we're going to Texas, like all that stuff. That was all then put into Canva and made a video, because I'm like, that doesn't need to be super polished. It's literally me taking photos of artwork and me recording myself about 18 times saying the same 30 seconds and people walking by and staring at me, but that's fine. But like, there's times when you need that, really polished look, something like a big milestone you really want to, that's where you make the investment to make the video really, really special. And then there's times it's like, you don't need to do that, and you can pump it out a lot faster and still have good quality. It's just different. And so I feel like that's the importance of like merging those things together. Like, you can have a robust video strategy and know when you put the money into it and when you put the labor into it.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's part of the like having that video strategy is understanding like, hey, there's short form user generated stuff that's going to be good for a specific purpose, just like that long form video or that more highly polished video is going to be good for a specific purpose. It's just understanding that stuff. You can't just assume it's all the same, but like that one is one, especially, I mean, like talk about that partnership we worked with, right? I was there to do the 100th. So I was interviewing, I was doing stuff like that. However, thinking long-term of like what this whole, like what marketing you have to put out. It's like, hey, I'm going to capture all this B-roll. So I'm going to give you all this type of footage. So I'm going to have TMSA members celebrating with signage and stuff like that, because it's going to help my video, but it's also going to help your marketing content in the future.
Speaking of TMSA Elevate, TMSA Elevate 2025, June 8th through 10th in Austin, Texas. I'm going to pop up this, take your name out of here, register, join us. But with that, so last year we did do that 100-year video. You recorded our main stage. You did that for the 2022 Elevate, but part of growing partnerships is knowing when it is to, up the game. And you will be doing all of our AV video photography stuff for TMSA Elevate. And for this year, which I'm really excited about, in large part because I only have to talk to you. I don't have to talk to 4 different people. But what I would love, because we do have other event planners, we do have marketing people that are in charge of this type of stuff in our network. How does the AV side of things prep for events? What do you wish that event planners knew, or what do marketers miss? Because I know it can be really hard to be like, oh, there's so much stuff that I'm missing, or I wish that this ran more smoothly or whatever. I would love to hear the other side's perspective so that we can maybe get a little better.
I mean, it's tricky, right? It all comes down to partnership. Really, that's the big thing. And that's why I love the 5 Tool Productions where we work, because it's about partnerships. They're not just like, hey, we're getting this one video done. I came from that world where I was on that side. Like I said, I worked for a director of marketing. I worked as a video for a nonprofit. So I worked where like, hey, we would reach out to video production companies because I was just a one person. I had a hard time. So we'd have to do that. And they would come in and they'd just be like, hey, here's the product you're going to get. And it's like, well, no, I need the B-roll footage. I could use a bunch of this stuff. And that's really the same when it comes to the events. It's understanding kind of the big picture of what you need to do. Events are no longer just like stand on a stage and talk. It's photo. But what does photo mean? Is it just an album at the end, or is it headshots that people want right away? Is it action stuff because we want to create that fear of missing out? Like all those types of things, it all comes down to like understanding it. And then for an AV, like a really successful AV company, they should be talking to you. It should be a partnership, and it shouldn't be you trying to translate what they're saying. They should be listening to you and understanding what you're trying to achieve. And you should feel confident that they know you. So really, that's the biggest thing that I try to do is just have that clear communication. I try to understand the client's boat. So the budget, objective, audience, and timeline of who are they talking to? What's their budget? How do we make this accomplishable? And how do we do it? And then it's all clear communication. I mean, it's the same as someone who doesn't want to be on camera. It's like, all right, great. Here's when we're going to have meetings. Here's what's going to be. I'm going to communicate this clearly. I'm going to talk it through. I think one of the facts that I recently learned, especially when it comes to the event side, that's fascinating is that I want to say it's like 50% of all hotel contacts, especially in the kind of the catering, the place that as event managers, you're kind of dealing with them. 50% of them this is their first time ever having that type of job. Like the industry fundamentally flipped after COVID. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening in the event space. Things that used to be a no-brainer in terms of like, yeah, we could save the room the day before. It doesn't matter. For us, it's really the hotel bookings that like we make our most money. They are now getting rooms booked every single day. So there's stuff that like you got to have that communication. It's really difficult. So as event managers, especially at the TMSA event managers, who usually are also the marketing, they're a bunch of fun things. They're the merch, they're the company store, they're all the fun stuff. It's something that's tricky. It's not easy. And what you want to do is find partners. And really the AV is a big important thing from that, because you want to have the same consistent feel, regardless if you're in Austin, New Orleans, Orlando. You want them all to feel a really good way. Savannah, you heard me announce the ones I went to, but
Savannah, I was like, oh, he's good Savannah because he wasn't there.
I forgot about the Savannah bananas. I didn't get to but like you want the same feel, like, right? You want, as the event manager, you want to know like, hey, we're going to go up there. And also as you want to do unique or experimental or kind of risk-taking stuff like singing the 100th anniversary song, you want to trust that your partner's been with you and can understand, and you can sit there with this idea and be like, great, you ran with it. You know that tech side. I don't need to know the tech side. Mm-hmm. I just know I want to be able to present this way to my audience, and I want to be able to do it for this type of this budget. And that's kind of where it comes in to have a really good AV vendor.
Yeah, I think that's been really helpful. And like I can see like part of the reason why I wanted to expand the partnership and do AV with you this year is because, I mean, for 3 years, I've been like, Kyle, what do these words mean? Like, do I need this? What are they charging me for? Because I don't speak AV. That's never been something that I've worked in. And so you became like a trusted partner for me to be like, do I have to pay for this? Like, what does this actually mean? And now I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pay you because you've explained to me what I need. And so, but I do think that's really important. And so like, as an event planner, I agree. Like, it's really important to have partners that you have, and not that you can't get that from a hotel AV team either, but it's just having a relationship where you're able to trust and know what's going on, and that the people in the room you're able to connect with. Like my one guy that I worked with at Executive Summit last year, he was great. Like, I loved him. Even when he had to step off to go to a different hotel, he came and found me to tell me. I'm like, well, thank you. And Executive Summit doesn't have like all of the bells and whistles that Elevate has, but I was really appreciative of that. Where I've had ones in the past too that I was like, I have not a single clue where the AV person is and no one can hear the person on stage. And so, but I do, like, I feel like AV can make or break a conference. Same with internet connectivity. It's something like that, like all of those things. And just like from the event planner side, I typically try to stay for like site visits in the hotel I'm at. And I make sure I load up all of my devices in my room and see if I can like break it or whatever, because that is such, we are working people that are going to a conference. We need to be able to access the internet. And if the internet is broken, it's not good. And so there's been a hotel that I loved and I was like, no, I could not. I had to call your little tech people from my room twice. And so it was not an option for me anymore. So I don't know why I went on that rampage, but I think it's really important to think through all those things.
Right. And that's part of the thing, right? It's like, hey, I'm thinking this way. Like, I don't need to know what type of light you're using to light the stage. I just need to know, like, hey, I have this level of, like, I want it this level. Can we just make sure we're getting that at a budget? Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of times, like, they add all these things. You're like, is that necessary? What's this? And then like the bodies too. Like, it's one of the tricky things. One of the things that we like to do is like, we send people on site. So it can be a little more expensive because like you're getting me on site when it comes to AV. But what that means is you've got me for the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Typically, when you go to these hotels, like a lot of times their person's there for their set number of hours. You go over, sure, you can go over, you're going to get paid more. But like that person's only there for that hour, like the show run. And that's not what you need. You need some partner that's there to help you as an event manager because you're worried about reg, you're worried about the internet, you're worried about all these other things. Where's the food? Is this all out? All these things that really go into an event manager side that are just so time consuming. And then if all of a sudden you're also worried of like, wait, this person's who needs to get mic'd up. You're like, no, why can't my AV person take care of that? And that's sort of where like, I love it. I have a blast with AV, especially getting more and more into it of like, it is fun to like kind of run a show and get all that stuff going. And then like you say, it's like, it does make or break a lot of times. Mm-hmm. Like a mic breaks down, everyone's sitting there awkwardly and like, what is happening? And that's kind of the big thing that like, I like to.
The executive director decides she's going to open the show singing. The microphone needs to work.
Yeah, that part was a little frustrating watching that for you. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, how? I was like,
we fixed it. You made me sing in post so that we could fix the post-show video. But yeah, I think all those things are important. Any other video best practices we're missing? Anything else that you want to tell all of the fans of On the Move what they could be doing with their video?
Length is a lie. Do not think of length. Like if you've heard that it needs to be short, it needs to be long, it needs to be any of that. It doesn't. That's a straight up lie on the internet. You can watch audience retention. It's as long as it needs to be, as short as it can be. So don't fill 30 minutes if you don't have 30 minutes. If you got 5 minutes that you only need to tell that, tell the way, instruct them, do whatever story you want to. But like the idea of like, if this is over 90 seconds and it's garbage, you're like, no, there's something I'm explaining that's too complex to be able to get done. So really it's that. I think that's the biggest thing that drives me bonkers on the internet. A lot of people kind of take that traditional, like, oh, television where they're putting in breaks and stuff. You're like, that's not what the internet is. You don't need to build in these ad breaks. You don't need to do a certain time because you can do as long as you want. Joe Rogan can do a 4-hour podcast, but then you can have the daily does like the 1-minute news recap, and that's just as valuable. So it's really like, don't worry about length. If I could just preach that, it's as long as it needs to be, as short as it can be. I heard that from Facebook and Instagram when I visited their headquarters, and like their director of content was like, this is what matters for us, our platforms. Like the video length isn't something that really matters.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's with anything. If there's value, people will stay. And yeah, I mean, that's what I told you at the beginning. Like, yeah, this will be one of our longer podcast episodes, but I'm fine with that because I feel like the whole time had value and we talked about different things. But I want to take you and the audience now on a little bit of my long con of this. So I'm coming back to the beginning when I asked, how do you get people on camera that don't want to be on camera? So you mentioned a few times that you used to be like a director of marketing at a logistics firm. And when we first met, you came and did video at the 2022. It wasn't even Elevate yet. It was the annual conference. And you said, wow, Jen, I wish I would have known about this organization when I was a director of marketing and logistics. I felt so alone and like really siloed there. And if I would have known that there was this group of people, like I would have been better. And I was like, that's cool, really great and awesome to hear. Can you put yourself on camera and say that? And you said, no.
Yeah, who was going to film? I was the one filming.
No, I'm behind the camera now. But here we are on camera 3 years later, full circle moment. I'm ready for you to say it to the people. Explain like your journey with TMSA and like why you're glad to be here and why you wish you would have known about it back then.
It's especially within logistics marketing and sales too. I mean, I've kind of gotten to be more and more of a salesperson. It is a lonely experience, like especially in marketing. It is kind of usually a 1 to like 4-person team. It was like something where I was by myself. I had no idea about running a company store. I came as a videographer from a nonprofit, wanted to kind of build up a team there. Wasn't working at the nonprofit because it's a nonprofit, dummy. You should realize they ain't gonna have more money. So I got like this job, and they wanted me a director of marketing. And believe it or not, it's actually the company that Tim Dooner used to be at. So like they were doing podcasting. Dooner left that to go work at FreightWaves, and they brought me in. And really, to me, it's like, great, I can do content creation. I've done the content stuff in the past where I've heard marketers battling with a salesperson. I can get in there and do it. But there was so much more that I learned about marketing. And it was all kind of me learning by Googling or texting Blythe, because I just randomly knew Blythe Blumlevy. I don't know. What's her new name? I completely mullet. Geez, I've just learned Brumlevy somehow. And now I got to remember a different one, Blythe. What the heck? But like I would text Blythe because like Blythe was someone a weird random past life thing of just like, hey, is this a normal thing in marketing? Like I didn't understand running the company store was like a normal thing marketers did. I just thought I was taking on responsibility, and I was getting more and more mad that like I was a doer who was taking on responsibility and felt like I was getting taken advantage of. It would have been awesome had I been able to go to TMSA Elevate, or back then it was just TMSA, right? It wasn't Elevate yet. Yeah. If I would have just gone to the conference.
It's like Milligan, not Mulligan. I said it and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. And I just wanted to verify because I also like, thank you, finance chair of TMSA. Her name is Milligan. Okay, continue on.
We get to tag you. Haha. That's why we dropped your name in here. We get to tag a bunch of stuff. It's linking back. We got Blythe, baby. But yeah, it was very much like if I would have, it would have helped me. Like I felt like I was taking crazy pills, and like it was such an eye opener when I got to there to film. I was like, wait a second, everything you're saying was stuff that went through my head when I was going through this journey. And like typically the marketers are doers. They are people who want to get stuff done, especially in logistics, because you're out there, you're trying to talk, but you get put into all these other roles and you're like, is this something I'm supposed to be doing? I feel like they're just taking advantage of my nature. And to like learn that like, no, that wasn't the case. And I could have had people in sandboxes. I mean, really, that's the awesome thing about the TMSA. The last one I really was like an aha moment to me was like, there is sandboxes available for you in terms of like, hey, I've never done this before. I can go to the membership and be like, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? And they're willing to watch and do. Like, you've just got a team that like you're essentially giving yourself a team without needing to give it to, like without having like what a logistics company is never going to do, which is build out like a 20-person team. It's like you get to go to all these people. You can find people in your area and kind of connect it. It was such a cool thing. And then you make it a party. So like, that's the other thing. Like I remember that first time I was there and that party went to like midnight. And I was like, I gotta be up.
These catering people go home. Have you?
Oh yeah. Like,
people never work in catering. They want to leave.
It was wild. And like that stuff, it's like, oh yeah, this is like, it's the people, like it's a mindset you have working in logistics, especially in the non-operation side. And like, it's something that just helps you get out of like, man, I'm not taking crazy pills. I could have been a part of this big group. It's something that, like I say, like I probably would have still been in logistics marketing if that was the case. And like the company I was working for, I know they've gotten bigger and bigger. So it's one of those things of like, I'm very happy with what I do now. I love doing video and stuff like that. But it's one of those, like, I probably would have been in a company that just continues to raise itself because that's logistics. Like they can grow like that. And as a marketer, it's like, you're going to get burnt out, but man, TMSA is such a cool area to kind of keep yourself engaged.
Well, I'm glad that you finally voiced all of that in front of the camera. 3 years in the making.
Yeah, congrats. You got me to do it. I was like, I'll never do this. I can tell you. I'll do it.
And I was like, I straight up like sent you your questions. I'm like, I wish I could see your face when you read this last one, but really excited. Thank you. And then, of course, the last question I ask anyone that comes on the show, if you could go back in time and advise a younger Kyle anything, and maybe it was just to join TMSA back then, but we'll see. Maybe you already answered. But now, if you could go back and tell them anything, and this could be personally or professionally, what would you say and when would you go back to?
Never move out of Florida. Snow sucks. Start playing golf right away. There's so many things I wish I could tell my younger. I'm like, why did you move out of Florida? Like, why did you think the snow was going to be fun? Why didn't you get out of here? It's mainly because we're recording this in March and it's horrible up here still.
I know, I'm very ready for it, like the weather to break. Like
I look so tan. I was like, I was like, what is happening here? It's the lighting.
Well,
I made myself pretty.
Pale, so
yeah, I'm pale too. Trust me. My siblings come up from Florida and they laugh. They call me Casper. They're making fun of my ass. But honestly, like, I think it's more like as I'm getting older, it's like spending more time with like loved ones. Like, I've lost people recently in my life that I just wish I could have spent more time and really taken advantage of that. I know when I'm younger, like I was all kind of about myself and did all these things. So part of it would have been like, hey, you dummy, just like enjoy the people in your life would be the thing that like that advice I would have given myself. And then, yeah, would have professionally been join the TMSA, running the company store and having this big galoof who wore a jacket, your sweater 3 times and now says it's too tight for him and he wants a new one. And you're getting very upset. If you would have gone to TMSA, you would have realized that like everyone's got a big galoof in their company. Here's ways to work around that big idiot. Would have been great to know 4 years ago.
Well, great advice. If anyone is interested in joining us at TMSA Elevate this year, you can scan this QR code, June 8th through 10th in Austin, Texas. Very excited about that. Other things upcoming here at TMSA, our recognition program is open for our Purpose Awards, Trailblazers, and Rising Stars. Submissions will close March 28th. So it is rounding out to when you can submit for any of those awards. So make sure you get those in. Free submissions for members. So definitely a member perk to take advantage of. And then catch us on the show next week where I'm interviewing Jennifer Schaefer with IMC Companies, where I'm really excited to talk to her because we talked about what it's like to be a bit of an introvert in marketing and PR and what that means when you go to trade shows and like need a night to just like DoorDash food and sit in your pajamas by yourself, because I feel like people should talk about that more. So dive into that and trends going on in marketing and PR in the industry. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Kyle, and for working with me and dealing with my nonsense. I feel like we both did a really good job not cursing on this episode. That's not what we're always like.
That was tough. I was
really proud.
That's hard part.
But thank you so much, and see everybody next week, and hopefully everybody in Austin, Texas in June. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Oh my God, I have an outro. I almost forgot.